Hello again, and welcome back to the Bobby and Beardy show. I am Beardy, and this over here is Bobby.
Hello, it's me, Bobby.
We do film reviews, and there will be time codes below for spoilers and non-spoilers. Today we are talking about Deadpool and the Wolverine, and I think Bobby has some rundown for us.
We do. We're seeing Wolverine. 7 p.m. Wolverine. We saw the movie. We saw the movie together yesterday, and Beardy forgot how to order tickets. It was a movie.
I'm very tired.
Anyway, here's your rundown. As mentioned, we are discussing Deadpool and Wolverine, which is the 34th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and is a sequel to Deadpool and Deadpool 2, 2016, 2018, respectively. Those were both Fox properties tied into the X-Men universe that they had. That was, well, everything by Fox was purchased by Disney in 2019, making this the first Disney Deadpool film. Actually, it makes it the first Disney X-Men film, technically.
True.
Yes. I know there's been characters appearing. Beast appeared at the end of the Marvels, and Professor X has a slightly more of a role in Doctor Strange multiplayer cross-platform madness extravaganza thing. Get off my back. This is like a proper... An X-Men, two X-Men, are the feature players of the film.
Yeah.
The film is directed by Sean Levy, who's worked with Ryan Reynolds before on Free Guy and The Adam Project on Netflix, from a screenplay that he wrote with Reynolds, Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and Zeb Wells. Reynolds and Hugh Jackman star as Deadpool and Wolverine. Who else could play Wolverine? Alongside Emma Corrin, Marina Baccarin. Ooh, that's not how it's said, but I'm moving on. Rob Delaney,
Baccarin.
Leslie Uggams, Aaron Stanfield, and Matthew McFadden in supporting roles. Release date 25th of July this year, 2024. Runtime of 128 minutes. A budget of 200 million. Just a fun fact, the original film had a budget of 58, the sequel had 110, but you gotta pay for those cameos, baby! Worldwide box office so far, 438 million Australian. Ooh. Joking, American, bringing that back that joke, making it the biggest domestic and global open for an R-rated movie of all time. It's a 15 here in the UK, which I think's the first Deadpool that's a 15 and not an 18, but don't quote me on it. I'm just remembering that. Domestically in the US, it made 205 million, becoming only the 9th film in Hollywood history to cross the 200 milli milestone on its opening weekend. Just to put that in a bit of perspective, for you, for how some of the recent Marvel films have done. Ant-Man 3, Quantumania, made 476 million total. So they're going to smash that. An absolute landslide. The reason why they're going to do that is because Ant-Man 3 is awful. And yes, somebody's going to go, oh, the Marvels only made 206 million. So yeah, it's already doubled that. But I think... the reason I'm going to get on my defending the Marvels high horse very briefly, I think the damage was done to the Marvels by the fact that there had been so many underperforming, not necessarily box office wise, but like how they were received. Thor: Love and Thunder, Ant-Man 3, and a number of others that just made everyone go, I'm not really feeling this. Which is, I think, is a shame actually, because I don't think the Marvels is as bad as its reputation is. I think it's actually quite fun, quite all right. But it did still bomb.
Well, this ties nicely into something I want to discuss a bit later, but it seems that comic book movie franchise stuff comes in ebbs and flows. There was a point when Marvel and DC weren't doing so well, and then a couple of great films spanned off and arguably led to the boom we had, and now people are getting a bit tone deaf to comic book movies. They're all very samey unless something big changes, and it's kind of going through a bit of a lull where they're very hit and miss. So it seems to be going through that trough again, that valley before it goes to a high peak, hopefully coming soon.
Well, that happens in Hollywood in general. Like, you have your big
True.
hit type of movie, your westerns, your spacey things, your whatever's, and then they kind of fall away. It was only kind of natural for, at the end of, the big climactic thing of Endgame, that some people would start to lose interest. It has climax for them. They're like, okay, I don't need to see as much. Not to say that films haven't done well since. Doctor Strange almost made $1 billion. Spider-Man did very well. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did quite well, 800, almost 900 million. and that was wedged between some awful films. Thor: Love and Thundered, and Ant-Man 3. I must stress, I hate Ant-Man 3. Can I just?
You've never mentioned it before. Yeah, this is the first we're hearing.
And I've got this sort of notes later, but I might as well say them now. I think there has been a fatigue in the universe, and I think there has been a distinct drop in quality. We were talking about this after the film yesterday. There's been since Disney Plus died, there's been more shows on it. More shows mean more people have to watch, and the shows have been mostly pointless. You're ebbing away at your audience by kind of just not giving them exactly what they want, which was a level of quality which the old MCU movies used to have. Even the bad ones were fine. And then after Endgame, it started to do this a lot more. So
it seems like it's very much got to a point where obviously everyone knew that these movies were making money, and Disney have gone, well, if we churn them out daily, we'll make more money, rather than if we churn them out daily, we'll lose quality and people won't want them anymore. Whereas like Phase 1 Marvel MCU stuff, you had to wait a little bit longer, but you anticipated it. Sometimes tease the people, let them build up to what they want, rather than
a bit of foreplay in your cinematic universe.
Exactly, which Deadpool's talking all about.
He won't stop talking about it. He's obsessed.
He is. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Are Marvel back? That's the first question. Do you reckon?
Yeah. So obviously this coincides with their talking about Stage 5 and obviously the RDJ news, which we discussed, which we can say about, maybe not. But it looks like they're pushing things in the right direction. If it plays out well, fantastic. It is a bit of a twist on the canon comic story. I'm interested to see how it goes.
They've had to do a big pivot. Well, we could, that's been announced. It was announced just before this film came out, or when was that?
Days ago.
Yeah,
like 2 days ago.
Yeah, so they've made some big changes. Part of the reason why this phase has been floundering a little bit has been the multiverse stuff hasn't been really working. It's been a bit directionless. They've made a pivot because Kang is out for various reasons. So Doctor Doom is in, and it could be the shot in the arm that Marvel needs. I say, is Marvel back? You can't tell on one film. That's not how a franchise works. But it's certainly doing very well in the box office. But other films did. Thor made some money, but it wasn't very well received. So
I think what they need to do is diversify. Rather than having films that are the same thing over and over again, which often they are, backstory, sort of comic book origins, then controversial second film, then maybe comic third film. Deadpool is very different to every other superhero movie. It knows what it is. I think it does it well. I think this specific film very much felt like Ryan Reynolds' love letter to the fans, and to be fair, his passion of trying to get, it took him like 10 years to get this going, and it's finally doing what he wants it to, and he's managed to bully his best friend to come back out of retirement, which I love. They mentioned multiple times, like he keeps whispering like, you're doing this till you're 90.
Till you're 90. They will never let you finish.
Which it's just, it was so well done. Like the way they worked on screen was outstanding.
They've got incredible chemistry, and obviously Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. Like, it's great to see him back. Logan, what a film, but it is good to see him back. He owns that role 100%. When they do eventually recast at some point, when he's like dead, because he's doing it till he's 90. That's what I've learned.
Oh,
huge fills to shoe.
Who's fills to me to shoe? No, there was something I saw earlier today where there's been like 12 Supermen, like 6 Batmen. There's been 3 Spider-Men, but there's 1 Wolverine, and obviously they've played around with other characters who might be able to take over, and obviously they do this in the film, which we'll touch on. But even though the person they chose for it looked good, he could probably do it. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, and anyone who says otherwise needs a slap.
Yeah. There's a fun little cameo of somebody else playing Wolverine, and it's pretty cool, I would say. That's not a spoiler. There's plenty of cameos in this film.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think like you didn't know about it, but there was a lot of people talking about this potential cameo beforehand. The fact you didn't know surprised the hell out of me.
I have avoided so many spoilers. I have I didn't even read about the RDJ news because I was like, no, somewhere in a comment section or something, I could hit a spoiler. I didn't see the trailer for this film somehow until like 2-3 weeks ago when I was in the cinema and it played for the first time on a movie I happened to be watching. Can't remember what that was. I've avoided stuff like this played because if we go all the way back to episode 1, Argyle, we did a little bit where I talked about my 3 most anticipated films of the year. Deadpool and Wolverine was one of them. The Ministry of Ungently Warfare was another one, which we might do a review on soon, as it's out on Amazon Prime.
Definitely.
I can't remember what the other one was, so we'll forget about it. But yeah, as a result of that, I felt like I went back into peak Marvel, Endgame Marvel, where I just wanted to experience something, didn't want the rumors to be told me. I had one bit of spoiler news in my head, I think, which turned out to be a red anyway, so kind of. As mentioned, we watched this together, and I think after the film, I gave it a bit of a harsh review to you.
You did. I was very upset, but you had to drive me home.
Yeah, you were saying it was everything and everything you wanted. It was
almost everything I wanted. There's 2 things I didn't like, but yes, sorry, I interrupted you. Please go.
Shall we? Are those spoiler conversations, or can we talk about in this section? I reckon.
So they're not exactly spoilers. I won't say too much, but basically it's one of those standard plot points of the story needs to move on. So the big bad forgives or does what the good need to move the story. They too quickly go, oh, well, actually, you make a good point. When a minute ago they were like, I'm going to flay you.
Yeah.
And those things I didn't like. And same with the later on with the multiverse of Deadpools, which again, not a spoiler. People have seen this in the trailers. That section just gets ended too easily. But other than those 2 things, I like I said, these films know what they are. They did it very well. I was giggling like a child all the way through, and so were you. I looked across.
Oh, 100%. So this is what I said. This is what I said to Beardy after the film. I described it as a very funny disappointment, which I admit is too harsh for what I feel. I'm going to stress right now. Spoilers. It's getting a big time Bobby thumbs up at the end of this. So keep that in mind. I laughed a lot, like wholeheartedly laughed. I chuckled even more. I smiled at all the silly little insider references that I'm aware of and things like that. There's cameos and dick jokes galore. And that is Deadpool, right? And that, it always has been Deadpool. But I do feel like there's only so much you can go with those. And I was talking to Amy about this earlier, and she kind of agrees with me. It's very funny, but I do feel like it's lacking something, like a bit of body to it.
So I'm inclined to agree to a point. So a lot of the storyline, and again, it's not really much of a spoiler. It kind of gets mentioned straight away. It's the whole opening 5 minutes of Deadpool wants some meaning to his life. He wants to matter. He wants to do things. He needs to be an Avenger. And then it kind of gets mentioned that it's not what you need, it's what the world needs. And it's very much his journey to find out that he isn't the only person who matters, and he can sacrifice for a bigger cause. And I think that's the substance, but they don't. I think somewhere around the middle, they kind of go, well, that's the driving factor, but also this has now got very funny, so we're going to focus on this, and this driving factor gets swallowed underneath.
Yeah, the big theme of it, when you look at it, is redemption, second chances, and finding your place.
Yeah.
But that is very much in the back seat for the most part, if not all of it, if I'm honest with you, so that it can do lots of cameos, although not as many as I was expecting, if I'm completely honest. I was expecting probably double. And lots of silly jokes. But it's funny. Don't get me wrong. I was laughing the entire time, basically. A couple of jokes I felt fell a bit flat into the audience. There were definitely like, that was a joke, and not many people are doing anything. But that, you swing and you miss sometimes.
There was quite a few as well that you needed to know a lot of background for. So we discussed afterwards, sort of. Is it a spoiler to mention?
I think you're talking about the film that's been in development for a while, shall we say?
Yes.
We'll talk about that in spoilers, because I reckon
we'll talk about that later. Okay, but there was a few things you needed to know past films 20 years old or plus for it to really to make sense. And there were a few people you could hear them like quietly chuckling in the background, but they didn't hit as hard as some of the obvious, like you say, dick jokes, which just easy, cheap laughs. They were well done.
What I will say is, I did find the extended opening dance sequence to be quite long, and I felt like it lost its momentum quite soon. However, belter of a song. Can't remember even what the song was. Was it a Backstreet Boys song? I can't remember.
It was Backstreet Boys, yeah. I loved it, honestly. It because it was the opening credits sequence, because you had all the names flying by and the sort of 3D effects with it.
Which is definitely a Deadpool trope, right? That's been in all of the...
Oh, yeah, 100%, yes.
I thought so.
But I found out that wasn't Ryan Reynolds doing the dancing.
No, you're... What? No! You're joking me. Yeah, of course it's not. It's never been Ryan Reynolds doing the dances. They've got a dancing Deadpool. He's called Dancepool.
I know. It's one of those things I would have loved it to be. But obviously the Deadpool 2 trailer, the teaser trailer for it, was someone else doing the dancing with the bullets raining down, like bash dance sort of thing. It just would have been very funny. Yeah. But it worked. Honestly, for me, it hit very well. It was very funny.
I can't talk too much about that dance sequence. Maybe mention it. Spoilers about what he's dancing around. I kind of want to move into spoilers just so we can just talk.
There's so much spoilers.
Really. Yeah. Ultimately, it's quite hard to review a comedy because you're like, it's funny. Is your main, so we can talk more like actual details in a bit. What I will say before we move into that, and if you want to add anything else or got anything other comments, feel free. I enjoyed how much this still felt like a Fox X-Men film. Sure, Marvel own it. They've owned it since 2019. This has been fully developed, redeveloped by Marvel, essentially. And yes, they've woven a couple of MCU elements and characters from film and TV in, but this remains a Fox X-Men universe for the most part. Mockery, the Deadpool shenanigans. And I think that works really well. And I don't think Deadpool will work in the main MCU, like at all. I don't think they can bring him over for Avengers and have him. He can't be doing this sort of stuff. I just don't think it works. I think it works really well on its own little universe, just over here.
Yeah. I think you can pull major characters into his films, but him going into theirs may not work so well.
Yes.
I disagree on one point.
Go for it.
I think Spider-Man, because the way that their quippy one-liners work, the way that they've had so much background in the comics, that would work. And the Spider-Man films, obviously they got quite heavy with No Way Home, but they do have more of a laughable comedy element. I think that would work, but that's the only one. I don't see it.
Yeah, I would love to see a Deadpool Spider-Man film. I think it would have to be Spider-Man coming into a Deadpool film rather than Deadpool coming into a Spider-Man film, though. To be honest. But yeah, that's fine. I just don't see it working in Avengers Secret Wars or whatever they're called. The next one's called. Him just rocking up and then and looking at the camera. I feel like in his world he can do that sort of thing and it works really well. When you're in the main universe, which is real, it falls apart a bit.
Something I would love to see, but I doubt it's going to happen. And if you steal this idea, Marvel, money please. I like some of the Sony IP, Venom, Morbius, stuff like that. It's not perfect, but I enjoyed it. It's an easy watch. I would absolutely love any of the films that are being discontinued, just get Deadpool to kill the characters. Just have him going around culling all the IP that doesn't work. I think that'd be funny.
Deadpool becomes the TVA and just kills everybody.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. It'd be a laugh.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if Sony can work out a deal with Marvel again to kind of bring their Sony Spider-Man-less Spider-Man universe and just push it into the Deadpool universe, that could probably save it and make it work. I say save it. They make money, most of them. Venom makes money.
Yeah.
I can't remember how well that did. I hated it. I know that. All right, so let's do our thumbs up, as mentioned. One from me. I just want to summarize. It's very funny, but unlike Deadpool 1, which I felt did have a heart and a driving storyline through it whilst there were jokes, I do feel like this one in particular is, let's just do a lot more. But
yeah.
Spoilers?
Spoilers.
Do you want to lead the way?
Obviously the cameos are massive in this. There's ridiculous amounts. Some of my favorites are harking back to IPs that have been forgotten about. Obviously there's Elektra from the original Ben Affleck Daredevil. Blade makes the appearance, who we were kind of hinting towards earlier.
That's the one, yeah.
The very, very funny Channing Tatum Gambit, because I loved Gambit as a kid, and the fact that he wanted to play it and never did, now they brought it back. It's a joke in itself, but he does it very well, and the bad accent is outstanding.
He's so bad in that, like it's so intentionally bad. He was signed on to play Gambit so many years ago, and just it got stuck in development hell. Pardon me. Blade is the main one you were talking about earlier, in which there's they're talking about all the various different Punishers and other characters who've been recast, and Blade quote quips that he's the only Blade, and then Deadpool does a little look at the camera. Well, is Blade being made? It was announced in 2019 that you can in a couple of years you can take that sly look to camera in so many different ways of, he doesn't know he's being replaced, or Marvel thought they were going to make a movie and they didn't.
Yeah. But again, I like the interaction, because obviously Ryan Reynolds is in Blade Trinity. There's a lot of that sort of crossover of people, like we were saying, people being recasted, but recasted within technically now the same universe. Chris Evans obviously rocks up. Everyone thinks he's going to be Captain America. It's fantastic, and then suddenly he's Johnny Blaze, and it's outstanding. From an interesting Fantastic Four.
I don't know how he survives that, but he like lands really hard.
That one got me quite bad.
I thought, I'm not surprised with your neck. I thought they just killed him off then and there, but he has a bit more time in the movie. He takes quite the fall. There's a whole bunch of Henry Cavill is Wolverine in a very brief cameo during a very fun little montage. That was the one and then you got other characters. Original Sabretooth is back, which is cool.
Yep.
Gets decapitated immediately.
Can I go through some of my favourite cameos, specifically Deadpool cameos?
Yes, I'm just going to write down a note so I don't forget about it.
Okay. So there's a scene where all the potential variants of Deadpool are coming after Deadpool 1, the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool, the one we know from the story.
Deadpool Prime.
There's a ton of them turn up. Deadpool Prime. That's the one, thank you. There is a Welsh Deadpool, which they call Welsh Pool. That's Paul Mullin, who plays for Wrexham. It's a very nice thing. I like that. Baby Pool and Kid Pool are Ryan Reynolds' kids. So that was kind of interesting. Matthew McConaughey voices Cowboy Pool. Which again is just ridiculous. Peggy the dog, the ugliest dog in the UK, gets cast as Dog Pool or Mary Poppins. But my personal favourite, and I didn't realise this, Nice Pool.
Yeah.
Gordon Reynolds.
I read that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's his alter ego from an interview back in 2016. And he's in the credits. It's Gordon Reynolds.
That's funny.
It's the dumbest thing, but it's the most Deadpool thing possible.
Yeah.
I loved.
Other cameos.
Oh, Blake Lively.
Yeah, but Blake Lively voices Lady Deadpool.
Is that not her in the suit? Do we not know this?
Apparently not. Apparently it's an unnamed stunt actress. According to the things I was reading. But fair enough. Going back to what I said about the spoiler I kind of knew, is I'd heard rumours, or just people predicting and hoping, that it was going to be Lady Pool was going to be one of three people. Blake Lively, which it kind of is, Taylor Swift, you explained reasons, but let's not go into it, or just Ryan Reynolds wearing a wig. That's the personal one I wanted.
Yes, definitely.
Like his normal face, but with, female body. I thought that would have been very funny, and but maybe it was too obvious. Not that the dick jokes they do aren't too obvious, so it's not like you've got a bar.
Yeah. It's very subtle and nuanced.
Oh yes, and then you got the biggest cameo / crossover is Happy Hogan from the actual MCU timeline. Talks to Deadpool about joining the Avengers and rejects him, which then sends Deadpool on a bit of a spiral, breaking up with his girlfriend, who he saved with a time machine in the last film. Can they not let this man be happy? happy for 2 seconds because he needs to place. How did he get over to the main MCU timeline? Because I thought he just had Cable's time travel thing, not a dimension thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering.
I do think, like, again, complications wise, I kind of mentioned this afterwards. Obviously, Happy Hogan, Jon Favreau, because of Elektra being pulled back in, he was playing Foggy Nelson back in the original Dead. Too many people playing too many parts. I understand no one ever had this idea that this was going to happen, so fair play. And then, like you said, it was 20th Century Fox not thinking that they're going to be bought by Disney, so Marvel, and yeah, fair enough, I totally get it. But oh god, it's complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before I go on to another more important thing, did you think that they thought Furiosa was going to be a bigger hit than it was? Because they kind of leaned into a number of visuals and jokes about Furiosa, which I think most people probably didn't like give monkeys about because they're like, we didn't watch the film.
So if I'm honest, maybe, but I think they just wanted to poke some fun at a current event, and because it fits so nicely with the Void, the general look and feel of it, I think that's why they did it. And to be fair, it led to, again, a very funny sort of like Toad and original Sabretooth rocking up on like Mad Max-esque cars in little chain balls, and yeah, it added another extra comedy element, which it clearly needed. It wasn't funny enough on its own.
So here's a question for you. What did you think of the idea of an anchor being? And more importantly, how does it work? How does it work?
So I like the concept in general, simply because there are people who are more important. Especially the way that the TVA works. Like, if you look at all of the MCU stuff, it is Robert Downey Jr., it is Iron Man, it is Tony Stark. Nothing happened without that. Ultimately, it kind of ends with him during the 4th phase. There are people like...
It's actually very meta, isn't it? Because since Robert Downey Jr. has left, their universe has been flailing, hasn't it? It's just kind of hit me how like on the nose it is about their anchor being... Sorry, sorry, continue.
But no, like you'll see this. Like, there are obviously the films, the phase 1 to phase 4 have been very good, but there are certain ones that stand out. I've always been a huge fan of Wolverine. I think a lot of kids were, especially Logan hit so hard. Like, as bad as it sounds, it basically makes all the other Wolverine films kind of moot. Like, they needed to happen for it to get there, but it's just so emotional and gritty.
It's a different level, entirely.
Yes. Yeah, and this is kind of the same thing, like the Marvel films, but then suddenly one hits hard. One makes you feel something. The newest Spider-Man, No Way Home. Spider-Man's usually a funny, quippy little film, and then the way he kind of gives up people knowing about him, his entire happiness and life, like, it just hits home, and he has now cemented a lot of timelines from merging into one. He saved them all. Like, he's got to be an anchor being. Like, yeah.
I just have more questions about how it works in like the reality. Like, the universe has been around for billions of years, waiting for this anchor being to arrive, and they're around for like 60 years or whatever, and then they die, move on, leave to a different dimension, and suddenly the universe can't do it anymore. I don't know, just doesn't make sense to me.
I think so. This complicates things, and this is going to be a conversation for another time. But if you're going to have millions of alternate timelines, then yeah, one of them could have happened 6 hours into the universe beginning. One of them could happen 6 billion years down the line. There's a multitude, an almost infinite amount of possibilities. And yeah, eventually maybe it's just the bloodline. This precious bloodline had to exist to get to the anchor being. Yes, you got a question?
No, I was doing the Roman Reigns. I was acknowledging my tribal chief. It's a wrestling wrestler.
Oh, okay.
Don't you worry. Do you want to do your big wrestling reference fact you told me in the car on the way home yesterday?
Oh, yeah. So, obviously, because of the Blade sort of coming into the MCU now, this makes Triple H canon in Marvel.
Yep.
Which I think, if you really wanted to, he ticks the criteria to now be a Disney princess.
Incredible.
Sorry. I didn't think about that last night, but I think he does.
Here's a question for you, because you kind of answered my my anchor being stuff. I know technically, Mr. Paradox says it takes a millennia or something for a universe to die once its anchor being goes. He just wants to speed up the process. That's why he's building a time ripper to rip some time. Do you reckon we'll ever know why Thor was crying over a dying / probably injured Deadpool?
No, I love it though. So
I don't
wasn't
think
it the
we
Matt
ever will.
Damon Thor?
No, it was Chris Hemsworth.
Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Unless I'm blind.
Well,
I will look into this afterwards because I'm not doing it now. Um,
if it was Matt
yeah,
Damon Thor, that would have been incredible, though.
I honestly thought it was, but I really hope I'm wrong. But yeah, anyway, I'll look into it. I really want it to be a running thing. So let's say Deadpool, whatever, comes out next in a couple of years' time, and he's still trying to find out. Maybe he runs into Thor and he's trying to make him cry, or not make him cry because he doesn't want to be hurt. Like, I don't know the situation. It should be a running joke. They should constantly make it.
They could have him be a bit scared of him because he's like, "No, Thor's here. I'm gonna get hurt." But I do want to know why I'm hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've already said that. Actually, that note there about keeping them separate from the MCU and having their own thing makes it holds it all together and works. Did you enjoy the fact that at the end of the film, the power of friendship plus the powers combined of Deadpool and Wolverine means that they can handle the power of the Time Ripper, save the day? You like that?
So the matter and the antimatter going through both of them, the whole point is if it was one person, it'd rip them apart, but the two together, basically the power of friendship saving them. Yeah. Yes, I do like that, but I had my thoughts anyway. So again, it's kind of canon that Deadpool has been reduced to atoms before and regenerated anyway. So I was curious before they did that, like what's going to happen, because he has been like atomized and come back. So I expected that to happen. The whole idea of them working together and obviously Wolverine's shirt blasting off as they've joked about for the entire film. Which, what's his name? Was it Ralph or Hugh? One of the guys in the TVA. Just starts biting his lip to it.
There's a good the climax of the film is them holding hands to grab the antimatter from one and the matter from the other to stop the Time Ripper from working and beat the big bad, who we haven't even mentioned. It's Cassandra Nova, Professor X's twin from the womb. Yeah, but during that, because it's a comedy film, they're having this big moment, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 style, where they're holding hands so they can take the power of the stone. And yeah, Wolverine's shirt rips off due to the extraordinary power, and everybody gets to ogle his incredibly ripped body, including Deadpool, who just takes a moment to, have a look at that.
Yeah.
Was that Jackman? I liked it. Was it actually Jackman? Because did he get?
I believe so. Yes, yeah, I believe so. Which is ridiculous. He's 55.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. He's done it so many times before. I just didn't know because I've avoided spoilers. Like I said, I didn't know if they just got a double because he's wearing his Wolverine mask, which works so well.
It was so good. So again, anyone who's really followed the Marvel and sort of X-Men stuff all the way through has wanted the yellow suit and wanted the headset and the fact that it pulled in. I loved it. It was fantastic. But in the next scene, he does have cowl off and shirtless still, and he looks the same. Like, I don't feel like he used a body double. I don't see it.
Fair. Anyway, that's basically the end of the film. They'll have a good ogle. It's not
pretty much.
It's not the end of the film. They have shawarma, obviously.
Which was fantastic because obviously the Avengers invented shawarma or discovered shawarma.
Yeah, absolutely. You all know this to be true. Do you have any more spoilery things to say, or should we start to wrap up?
Two more that I love. One more that I loved, and one more I just found out whilst I was quickly off the screen googling stuff. Headpool. There's a zombie head floating around as Deadpool, voiced by Nathan Fillion. Didn't know that. I love Nathan Fillion.
Yep,
I'm a huge fan. It comes just under low Nick Offerman for me. So yeah. I think one of my favourite jokes was there's a comic which is obviously based sort of into the future where there's a community living in Ant-Man's dead body, and this kind of happens in the void. And when the suit opens up, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool goes, well, Paul Rudd finally aged. And it's such a good, stupid little joke. I guess also the end credit scene, which was pointless but very funny.
Oh, that's actually one of the... I never stay for end credits, mostly because I normally need a read.
I made him stay.
I was happy to stay because it's Deadpool, and it's normally something slightly better than just like a 10-second tease of I mean, most of the old Marvel stuff was, oh, is it Thanos like being shown for half a second again? So we watched the credits. Johnny Storm gets his skin peeled off earlier in the film by Cassandra Nova for talking trash to her via Deadpool recounting Johnny Storm denying all. I didn't say any of this. The film Wolverine accusing him of getting him killed essentially. But the very funny end credit scene. I mean, if you stayed for spoilers, you've probably seen it already, or at least I assume you have. It is the revelation via videotape that actually Johnny Storm did say all of those things. It's a very final laugh of the featuring one of your favorite quotes, which is frosted thing.
Well, we don't swear in this podcast.
Yeah, you can't say
it. Basically, Chris Evans kind of teases a comment that Ryan Reynolds makes in Blade 3 about a sugar frosted
F word.
Fill that in. It's an F word.
Fondant fancy.
Yeah, it's a nice fondant fancy. Yeah, it was nice. It was funny. Again, if you know that reference, it's very, very funny. And it's one of those things that probably didn't land for many people, but I was like, hey, I liked it.
Oh, yeah. The final thing I will say, and we will wrap up, but there's a reference for the fact that I can't remember who plays Blade, but
Wesley Snipes.
Thank you, Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds famously did not get on. Wesley Snipes didn't get on with many people during the filming of Blade Trinity. And Blade says to Deadpool, "I don't like you." You never did. Which is if you know, you know. And that's the show. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We are on Spotify. Leave a like, thumbs up thing if you want to. Consider subscribing, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.
Bye bye.